Hello everyone, and thank you for returning. I am still going to carry on posting like I normally would. I'm just going to have to go a different way about it at the minute while Facebook do their reviews. So this is a case that a lot of people in the UK will have heard about. As far as I'm aware, it was shown to kids at school and stuff not long after it happened to raise awareness. So this is the case of Kayleigh Haywood, who was born on August the 6th, 2000. She was raised in the close-knit village of Measham, Leicestershire. She was a 15-year-old. She was bright, popular and deeply loved. And she lived a vibrant but normal life surrounded by her family. She had a devoted mother, Stephanie Haywood, and her dad, Martin Whippy. She was known for her creative spirit. She had a warm personality, and she absolutely loved the colour purple. Kayleigh was an active student at Ashby School, and she enjoyed a typical teenage social life, which increasingly revolved around social media apps and messaging platforms. Tragically, Kayleigh's trusting nature made her a target on October 31st, 2015, when she was randomly contacted on Facebook by 27-year-old Luke Harlow, an unemployed man living in nearby Ipswich. Over a brief but a very intense 13-day period, Luke Harlow subjected the teenager to a relentless, highly calculated campaign of psychological grooming. He was bombarding her with messages, 2,643 manipulative messages, in fact, over a 13-day period, that weaponised intense flattery, false romantic validation and constant declarations of how special and beautiful she was, to rapidly dissolve the boundaries that she had and build a false sense of intimate security, if you like. All of this was entirely undetected by her unsuspecting family. Unbeknownst to Kayleigh, she was not alone in his sights, because investigators later did discover that Luke Harlow was simultaneously targeting two other underage girls. One was age 13 and the other one was age 15, using exactly the same scripts. And Kayleigh was even being separately badgered during those exactly the same days by a 20-year-old internet predator named Bruce Caldwell. Bruce Caldwell sent her explicit images in a bid to meet her. Now, entrapped by Luke Harlow's digital illusion, Kayleigh packed her bags on Friday, November the 13th, 2015. She told her parents a carefully constructed lie that she was going for a routine, safe weekend sleepover at a friend's house. But her family instead dropped her off outside of Ipswich Community College, from where she secretly walked to Harlow's flat on George Avenue. Now, a lot of people have done this, said they are going to be somewhere and being somewhere else to the parents, or said they're going to the friends and sitting in a park or things like that. That is not unusual for a teenager. For a weekend, I'd have been a bit more wary, but you've got to remember she was getting all these messages, she was getting all these, he was flattering her, the validation, constant declarations of how special and beautiful she is, and just completely groomed her into the weekend that thought she was going on. Upon her arrival at Luke Hollow's flat, the horrific shift from digital manipulation to physical captivity began immediately, to be fair, as Luke Hollow plied the vulnerable teenager with heavy amounts of alcohol. He made unwanted sexual advances and locked her inside the residence, holding her against her will before casually alerting the next door neighbour, 29-year-old landscape gardener Stephen Beardman, that he had a, quote, bird trapped in his house. For anyone that isn't from the UK, when people will say, I've got a bird, or me bird, they generally mean girlfriend. The weekend devolved into a waking nightmare of terrifying confinement and assault, culminating in the early hours of Sunday, November the 15th, when Beardman brutally raped and severely intoxicated a teenager. In a state of absolute terror, Kayleigh managed to break free from the flat, and she flee naked into the street in the freezing pitch black darkness of the night, desperately running across local recreational fields. Beardman actually ruthlessly hunted her down, pursuing her into a dense secluded area of undergrowth near Sense Valley Forest Park, where he actually cornered the defenceless girl, and he savagely beat her till there was no life with a heavy brick, inflicting catastrophic head and facial trauma before callously dragging her body into the lakeside brambles to conceal the crime. Now, when Kayleigh failed to return home, her frantic parents have obviously contacted Leicestershire police, which sparked a massive high-stakes missing persons investigation that paralysed completely the local community, with hundreds of residents joining the search and tying purple bows to trees. And this was in a desperate show of solidarity. It was a most favourite colour. The agonising search turned into a grim forensic murder inquiry on November the 18th, when search teams discovered her body in the undergrowth. A recovery that was so brutal that investigators were forced to rely on dental records for formal identification, while post-mortem examinations confirmed the full extent of the physical trauma and the rape that she suffered. The harrowing legal proceedings concluded in July 2016 at Nottingham Crown Court, where Stephen Beardman was convicted of murder, rape and false imprisonment. He received a life sentence with a minimum term of 35 years. A sentence cut short when he took his own life by hanging in his cell at HMP Wakefield in April 2021, after facing severe bullying from fellow inmates. Now, think about that for a minute. He done what he did, the most brutalest of things to a absolute terrified child. And then, when he's getting bullied from fellow inmates while doing the time for the crime he committed, he took the cowardly way out and took his own life. Absolutely disgusting. Oxygen thief could even... Oh, there's just no words. Now, Luke Harlow was actually sentenced to 12 years behind bars for online grooming and false imprisonment. I absolutely believe that was a shocking sentence. He was sentenced to 12 years behind bars. Shocking. No justice will bring any relief for the family and will never bring Kayleigh back, but 12 years is a kick in the teeth. Out of the ashes of the unimaginable grief, Kayleigh's family, led by her courageous mother Stephanie, chose to channel their trauma into enduring legacy of child protection, and they partnered with the Leicestershire Police and Affixus Films to produce Kayleigh's love story, which is a raw, unflinching 5-minute educational documentary that maps out the exact digital timeline of her final days to serve as a stark warning about the invisible speeds of online grooming. The award-winning film has since been integrated into mandatory safeguarding curriculums for school children across the United Kingdom, and it's been viewed more than 36 million times globally and stands today as a vital life-saving shield that has directly empowered thousands of vulnerable children to recognise the red flags of digital exploitation and safely report predators before stepping off the screen and into harm's way. I didn't know that it had been mandatory integrated into curriculums for school children. I know it had been shown to school children. I didn't know it was a mandatory thing until I done my research recently, and I think it's a very important lesson that poor girl has had to go through, which could save and will save potentially numerous lives of other young children who think it would never happen to them, or they think, oh, they love me and they're gonna spoil me, and they say this to me and I'm beautiful. And this is a stark reminder that actually they only care about what they're going to get out of it and fulfilling their own needs. They don't care about you. And I think it's a very important thing to actually teach when trying to keep an eye on your child's internet activity. I will link the video after this to Kayleigh's Love. For anyone that actually sees this that's never seen Kayleigh's Love or never heard of this, I will link the video so you, for the sole purpose really, if you have children, you can be aware of the signs, and you can actually, if your children is of age, let them watch it with you, and you can actually talk about everything and what goes on and what should and shouldn't happen. And I'll just leave that resource of the link to your own discretion what you do with it. I'll just leave it anyway, just as a precaution. And as ever, and as always, my thoughts go out to the family, because this is something you're never gonna get over. But my thoughts and love are with Kayleigh's family, friends, and anyone affected by this.